Welcome to the Occult Rejects. Tonight we kind of got like a double header here. We got Magical Mailbag with Headless. We got Headless's Magical Mailbag. So I was screwing that up because Ethan was falling off and I got thrown off. I was like, what's going on? And we got Brooke from Dark Florida podcast, paranormal investigator, and she's got some interesting stories for us today. She had me on her show, and you all know I'm into the paranormal, so of course I was going to get her on this show. Brooke, real quick, let everybody know what your deal is and where they can find all your amazing stuff.
Yeah, so I have a podcast called Dark Florida. It's available wherever you get your podcast, and we talk about all things eerie, strange, paranormal, cryptid, unsolved mysteries, anything I find interesting, we get into, and nothing is off limits. We cover everything from esoteric stuff to cover-ups, you name it. So yeah, Dark Florida.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and I'll make sure I put all your stuff in the bottom as well for the new listeners. And Ethan, let everybody know what your deal is in case people don't know who you are by now.
Peace on Earth. I'm a writer and ne'er-do-well on the internet, and I recently published an article on the Occult Research Institute website and several other writings, of course. And I'm excited to be here as always. Thank you, Nick and Headless and Sarah. Thanks so much.
No, of course. No, thank you for joining us. And again, thank you for all the stuff that you add to the site. I have to tomorrow. I'll remember and I'll try to pimp out that article for you.
Whatever. Yeah. Thank you for all you do. And you guys. Thanks for communicating.
Of course. And finally, last but not least, with the Headless Giant himself. What is up, my man? How are we tonight? And what's in the mailbag?
Well, it's a snowy day in Wisconsin. I know it's kind of odd. We had a big old snow today. Interesting. So normally on my show we have a glyph, but tonight we are having a guest. So I'm going to go straight into the mailbag, and this one is right up your alley. This is from one of our followers, Tara Jackson, and
thanks. Okay.
Yeah, she's got a Bigfoot, Missouri, Texas county. She left me a voice message. It's like, let me read it.
Is it going to do text, or you're actually going to play the voice message?
I'm going to see if I can play it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't know until I opened it. Where is it?
Did you listen to it yet?
No, I haven't opened any of them, and I can't find it. This is stupid. All right. Try again next time, Tara. Type it out so that I can read it. Sorry about that. Okay, this one is from Jamie Ellis. This is Out of Body as a Kid. Hi, HG, Nick, and company. Love the show very much, particularly the mailbag. Makes me realize how common abstract experiences are. I have what feels like a very mundane story from my childhood, but experience was so profound I forgot about it for nearly 20 years. This was until I started looking into out-of-body experiences. When a year or two into my research, I suddenly remembered it, and not like remembering a joke or a trinket someone gave you once. I was there and I could feel and see it again. To set the scene for my experience, I need to tell you I lived in a small coal miner's house in the south of England. I've lived in this house my whole life. At the point, guessing I was 10 or 12, my bedroom was in the back of the house, such as that. I left the room. I would need to turn 180 degrees left on the landing to be looking down the stair. At the bottom of the stairs, steps went through a 90-degree turn to go down into the living room, which had a closed door. So 180 and then another 90.
270.
Right. This one particular morning, as I woke up, I remember this feeling suddenly odd sensation that I couldn't place. Without thinking about the sensation, I left my bedroom for a brief moment, paused, and stood on the landing. At this point, two things struck me. One, the feeling of the hot summer morning sunlight on my face and body coming from the front bedroom opposite me. Two, the warmth of the now hot sunlit carpet on the soles of my feet. At the time, I thought nothing of these sensations as they seemed perfectly normal. However, as I turned the 180 turn to go down the stairs, there was me. My body sat at the bottom of the stairs on my bum, how I often descended the stairs as a child, about to go through the door into the living room. As I looked at myself at the bottom of the stairs, corporeal me seemed to notice my conscious self, where I felt like I was witnessing reality from the top of the stairs, and turned around to look. So she's looking back at her own spirit body. I looked into my own eyes. I locked eyes with myself for a moment. Unfortunately, this is the end of my memory. I tried for a long time to recall the resolution to the scenario, but I don't seem to be able to. In my childhood, I'd put this all down to a strange dream, but how it struck me later in life as such a visceral memory of feeling and sensation tells me it was no dream. I'd love to hear your reflections. Speaking of reflections, I mean, how weird would it be to not only be the person looking in the mirror, but the reflection on the other side of the mirror looking back at you? I couldn't even imagine it. But that's sort of what this seems like. There's this sort of reflective quality to it. So which side did she remember first?
I feel like that happens a lot though with kind of out of body experiences.
Well, most of the time when you're having an out of body experience, your regular body is unconscious. You know, so you're not actually looking at your spirit body. But this one's odd because you have that interaction between the spirit body and the other body. And it seems like the first memory is the spirit body. So somehow the body was moving without somebody driving, which is odd. What are your thoughts?
It reminds me of, I'm going to destroy the name, so people have to look it up themselves, but I think it's not, I think it's Chung Tzu or something like that. The Yellow Emperor, maybe, a Chinese philosopher that talks about the story of him dreaming that he's a butterfly. And he has this wonderful dream that he's a butterfly. And when he wakes up, the dream is so vivid that when he wakes up, he can't distinguish if he was a man dreaming he was a butterfly and just woke up, or if he's now a butterfly dreaming he was a man. And the mirror concept of like, where is my consciousness? Like it has that kind of parallel.
Right. So that story kind of reminds me of Psyche. So Psyche, the goddess of the mind, right? Her symbol is the butterfly. And that's sort of like, there's a soul element there too. So, man, astral projection, you could really creep yourself out with that.
See, what's interesting is that I have even said myself that right before I blast off, it feels like I bust into a million butterflies. It's like fluttering as I come out of my head.
What do you guys think about like a time loop? You know how time is happening, like the past, present, and future is all happening at once. What if that's like a glitch in you're seeing like your past self or your future self?
What if she doesn't remember the resolution to this memory because she was projecting herself back in time? And since she was in that house, she thought of herself like a little girl. That's why she has memory from one direction, and she doesn't remember as a kid looking back up and seeing herself.
That is interesting. But the time loop thing, though, I've heard that recently about kind of theories on magic too. Like that's how the magician comes and goes back and forth. It's because of a time loop. The infinity symbol.
Right.
Who knows?
Maybe
and there is.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a quantum scientific validation, the kind of new concept around certain particles actually do go back in time. They kind of assumed in probably legitimate assumption that everything was moving forward in time, but there are some, I don't know the name, forgive me, I'm a layman, whatever, but it's this one particle that does have a backwards time element to it, to where like the future can affect the past in scientific terms.
You're talking about the reverse flow of neutrinos.
Thank you.
Yeah. They go into the Earth, but they found that there's an actual reverse flow somewhere near the North Pole.
You touched on this before, maybe, is how I even know this. Yeah.
the North Pole is so interesting because that's where they say the exit of this reality is, and at least that's what symbolic studies is always talking about. Like, that's the exit, the North Star, that's the exit. And what you find too is that NASA says that the big radiation belt around the Earth, the only way to get outside of that radiation belt is from the North Pole. And they don't launch into the North Pole, so.
That's what I was going to say. Wait a second. There's no flights going north.
Right.
Interesting.
There could be some flat Earth stuff in there too. But they always say that the mountain at the top of the world is like this magical mountain, and it's filled with the iron that causes all of our compasses to face it. But that was the old idea.
You know what? While we're talking about the infinity symbol, I was just talking about, I don't know the name of the theory, but that the Earth, instead of it being flat or hollow, is actually shaped like the infinity symbol. Have you guys seen that?
No, actually, I haven't.
That's really cool. I need to figure out the name of it, but we were discussing that, and that's a really interesting possibility to think about. If you see how that looks on a map, it's really cool because then it kind of plays into all of it.
Right. Well, recursive time loops. I mean, what if she was projecting back into her own memories? Is that possible?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I think that's even like, it seems to be like, I've even come across stuff like that as almost trying to be like magical practices, like trying to remember memories from scent and smells and stuff like that. I think there's something, it's interesting when you realize you could start like tapping into your brain and like almost getting a vivid picture of like a memory. It's to where it's almost like you're there, like you could smell the place where you're at. Something magical about that, I think.
That's a
there was this documentary about a indigenous group of South Americans, I believe in Colombia, and they were trying to work with this group to heal the river. And the Indians insisted that the mouth of the river was the root of the problem upriver. And of course, the mouth of the river was, industrialized and totally polluted and just screwed in every man-made way. And the investigative team did all this research. Of course, that can't be the case. But there were, I forget the specifics now, but there were some even noticeable things that, that it does have a physical traceable effect downriver on upriver.
Right. Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the easy zones, because each one of those easy zones sort of retains a kind of memory, and that's transmitted from one place to another. So they might actually be feeling those effects in really strange and interesting ways because they're, it's transmitting that electrical signal. Why can't there be some messages in there?
Definitely. I think so. I mean, I know I've mentioned this guy's work a few times. Goddamn dude won't come on my show. I think he's too scared of the occult. There's this guy called Look Out for Charlie. I mean, I'll keep promoting his shit. Motherfucker won't come on, but whatever. I still think he's got amazing work, and I really would love to get him on the show. But he goes out and like he takes like a recordings just all over the place, caves, outside, different places, and then he like puts them in his probably a lot like what a ghost adventure, ghost hunter would do. Now you're gonna put it in your program and try to look for all those like little different sounds in the background. And this guy is finding legit like phrases and words in the ambient noise. So he's like, are people really hearing shit, or are they hearing the shit that's out there?
Right.
What's really, people really crazy, or is the pills that they're taking because they're crazy making them hear the shit in the fucking air? Like, it's just weird. Like, what's really going on? You know what I'm saying? You got people out there supposedly taking pills because they hear things, but there's actually shit in the air to hear.
Right. Well, in the woods, there's all sorts of noises that sort of go bump in the night. I wish we got that Tara. Tara seems like a hoot. She's like the first person to get a tip on there. Yeah, Tara.
Yeah, that's why I was really like kind of looking forward to her thing. I mean, honestly, her voice message probably would have been like fucking over the top and amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say though that about weird noises in the woods, like that's so true. I've heard some weird stuff out there. Like sometimes you get out there and even the trees, them just like take out all the weird stuff. The trees make some really weird noises, like that you sound like you're in a horror movie. They start to creak and they whine, and this really like almost sounds like a violin on like a sharp note. And you're like, the first time you hear it, you're like, what is that? And they just kind of click. It's like super creepy.
Oh my God. You fucking
Yeah.
stoned
Dude,
out.
if you haven't gone into the woods at night, you've got to check it out. I found some glow in the dark fungus that was creeping on the trunk of a tree that it was an old dead tree, but this thing was like 2 feet long, and like you could see some of it on the ground, but this was bioluminescent fungus that was growing on this tree. I mean, you don't expect to see something like that in the woods, glowing at you in the moonlight.
No, unless it's like Russia. Chernobyl. Headless, you got anything else you want to add? Should we get into
I
it?
just wanted to say about the aversion to occult. I was having a conversation with someone the other day and said something about the occult rejects, and she kind of was taken aback a few inches, and I was like, not cult, like, so people just get the two mixed up, automatic, and think, if you're into the occult, that you're into negative things, not esoteric things. I think too.
I had somebody who I think like followed the show because of like, I think I don't know if it was because of Rune Soup, who somebody kind of shared. It was a guest that I think shared the show, and then I got people who added me from that. And like somebody hit me up, and because of the name, they're like, I don't understand your name. Does this mean like you're a cult? Just like, didn't you realize this wasn't when you fucking heard me from wherever you heard me the first time to add me? I was just like, where the fuck is this coming from? I said, yo, go look at my stuff. I cover cults all the time for the fucked up shit they do.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing. It's like the occult got a really bad rap, while terms like paranormal, they've kind of completely turned around. If you talked about the paranormal like 20 years ago, people would look at you like you're into that stuff, But I mean, paranormal did have a big turnaround, because that's what all the TV shows were,
That is true. I mean, I would even say, I guess, Brooke, I mean, I know you're kind of young, but I'm assuming like even throughout your time, you've probably seen the paranormal actually get more reception, like much more reception and well respected.
No, absolutely.
Like you're actually going to be taken serious. Not saying you shouldn't have been, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, it's really interesting too how many people in the Bigfoot world like started off as paranormal investigators and then like got into Bigfoot. It's like the parallel there is so close.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the spooky Bigfoot is really the thing that fascinates me. People say that they've witnessed, Bigfoot Chronicles, right? That show, he talks about his sighting of Bigfoot. And he says he saw it crawling on, like doing a crab crawl, and it was moving like a spider. How does
I've heard
Bigfoot?
that one. I've heard that. And
I feel like that would freak me out more.
I know.
I've actually heard that one where it was like kind of crawling with its leg. Yeah, like that's weird.
Yeah, I've seen some artist renditions of that. And even here in Ocala, Florida, there's a ton of bears. And if you go out into the national forest and you really see like off trails, it's super thick, but you can see like where the bears have made tunnels. And my friend was like, I bet you more than anything, they drop down on all fours and like take advantage of these tunnels, because you're going to go the path of least resistance. Like, why would you go through all this thick brush when you can cut through the tunnels? So yeah, the all fours thing is a legit theory that we talk about.
Right. Well, this guy was saying that he thinks it's because going uphill or downhill, they're going to have much better traction that way. So it's almost like this behavior, this is coming from the normie perspective of, well, maybe Bigfoot's just a Gigantopithecus or whatever they call it. But maybe they use that as traction, but it's like, I'm sorry, man, if you see something like that, there's something paranormal about it. I mean, look at all the other sightings, like with the walkers and like white walkers and the rake and all these other ones.
Oh, yes.
Reminiscent of that kind of weird movement.
Well, and you want to talk about the time loop stuff. So I've gotten some skinwalker reports here in Florida. So like the crawlers, the rake, like you're talking about. A friend of mine actually saw one, and the way that she described it, they were driving down the highway and she sees it cross in front of them, but it was so large, it almost took up both of the lanes. She said that like the way that it moved, its head was up here, but its backside like was like catching up to it. And but it was just this like fluid motion, and it like wasn't taking steps. It was just like one fluid thing, but like it glitched, and she freaked out because she realized like she acknowledged it, and she was like really freaked out about that. But yeah, and she described it as a skinwalker. And then later on, totally unrelated, I had this random lady talk to me about her skinwalker sighting in that same area, and that was super freaky. So yeah, we've got some of that stuff going on down here.
What
Yeah.
about go ahead, Alice.
Well, I was gonna say up here we have the Dogman, right? So that's what gets all the Beast of Bray Road up here in Wisconsin. It's still a lot of attention. It seems like it comes back every couple of years, you know?
Yeah, I think it is popular. I've seen a couple of shows cover that recently.
Yeah, I've heard of Dogman being like more of a popular thing again.
Anubis is
Yeah.
coming back.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a good sign. It's going to collect some souls.
Yeah, maybe that isn't a good sign. But I love that theory because people, yeah, they talk about Dogman, and I really feel like it's more ancient than people realize, because you had werewolf and that was kind of popularized. But from what I understand, there's a distinction between the two. They're not the same thing. So like a werewolf is a man who becomes a wolf, whereas a Dogman is like an actual like hybrid creature. Like it is not a human, like does not come back to like a human form. And yeah, you look at Anubis and you look through history, and I feel like we've been talking about Dogman this whole time and we just didn't realize it. We're just now kind of giving it that name because
Right,
it's
well,
around a lot of cemeteries and stuff too. So is it taking souls over? I don't know.
in the Roman days, they talked about the cynocephali. And they actually had reports about these dog-headed men who actually joined the Roman legions. And you could see some of these images of this dog-headed men, and also Saint Christopher, the original images of Saint Christopher. He had a big dog head. So
Yeah.
there has been a lot of historical interactions with this sort of dog-headed creature, you know?
It's funny. Teresa actually mentioned that topic for the show, and that was one of the reasons why, is because it's in a bunch of religions, but the Catholic Church even has like somebody, a dude with a dog head.
Right. I know there were reports from India. I just didn't memorize those.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing. If you bring up the dog head and stuff, it is seen within like a lot of different religions, different times, and then you start wondering again, like Brooke had mentioned with the werewolf. I mean, it's different, but like you even wonder, is that still a play off of it? You know, you're going from man to dog. I mean, it's not at the same time, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's very, very man into wolf.
And the whole idea of God and dog. I mean,
Yeah.
it's most silly at first, but if you start looking into it with the Anubis and all these things, and it actually has some, some deep ideas to it.
You're gonna try to get into figuring stuff out. Yeah. If you I would say that Headless, the dog star. Yeah, that's sorry. Keep on interrupting. But I was going to say that, yeah, the dog star. And I would say if you're an occultist, you should take into consideration the dog star and the fact of just saying something backwards. Dog, God.
Right.
You kind of have to start almost like at least taking those things into consideration if you're looking for symbolism and understanding. Because it's very prevalent, I think.
The streets
what's Dogman backwards?
Oh, good question.
Or what's the gematria of that?
Namgod.
Yeah, right.
I was sitting here trying to figure that out.
So the entire architecture of Washington, D.C. is based around Sirius rising over the Capitol building. So, when you're talking about this god dog sort of thing, it goes straight into government too. And they actually have, I think it's on the summer solstice, a bunch of witches that go out to Washington, D.C. to do their summer solstice thing. And they're just out there doing it because that's when Sirius is rising in that perfect position over the city. They know it.
Wow.
You know, another thing too that I've noticed, German Shepherds. Those are used a lot. Those come up a lot among stories and occult tales. I've always wondered about that because it doesn't. I mean, it's not a wolf, but like it starts looking like closer to one than a regular dog. I don't know if you know.
Well, they
You know.
are basically wolves, right? They were bred from wolves, and they were the ones that listened. They were just more likely to listen than the other wolves. Didn't have that same sense of motivation to listen to human commands.
Oh, that is really
So
interesting.
they're like the among the smartest dogs, though. From what I understand, maybe the Malinois or whatever is smarter, but like in that sense, and goats too, like that. Those dogs and goats have always been looked to as like examples of beings with consciousness that were, you know, not human, but like you can't deny that they're conscious beings, right?
Well, and Son of Sam too.
How many
Yeah.
German Shepherds were a part of that.
how many different cultures have a hound of hell?
Mm.
You know, and it's all directly related to the fact that it is around these graveyards, and they're very territorial around these portals and stuff like that. There's a definite link between somehow traversing these two different realms.
Well, and it's interesting you bring up the portals. So I just got back from this property. This is really cool. So there's a couple who lives here, and it's up in the Florida Panhandle. And their property, they started out with Bigfoot. They started having Bigfoot sightings on this piece of land, right? And so they started trying to figure out what was going on because they literally had like a handprint on their inside glass of their sliding door, and they were able to dust it and look at it and capture it, and all this weird stuff started happening. Well, then they started noticing like Dogman stuff. They had the rake activity with the crawlers and everything like that. So this lady saw a dire wolf, and when she's telling all these stories, and there's tons of evidence to back it up, she was saying that the DOD was out there and said that she has 3 portals on that property. And when she started talking about that, I said to her, I was like, have you guys gotten the minerals here tested? And is there a high deposit of quartz or anything like that in the area? And she was like, actually, we did. And we're sitting on the, go figure, quartz. And I think that there's some kind of like ecosystem there. Like that's the head of the Appalachian Mountains is like where she's at. Like they're some kind of mecca thing. There's so many different, like there's like 50 different trees on the property. So it's like this like perfect lush environment. And yeah, they've had like Men in Black activity out there. She's lost time. It's really crazy stuff. But when you hear about the portals, you do hear about the Dogmen, the crawlers, Bigfoot, all those things kind of happening in the area. So I feel like it's like the Skinwalker Ranch of Florida, honestly.
Could be the Bradshaw Ranch. Have you ever heard of that place?
Yeah.
That guy with the, what did he have? The sword that he was running through all these aliens with or something? He was saying they were coming through the portals and I couldn't stab them fast enough. It was so weird.
Right.
He was playing a video game.
He's got time slips and all the rest of this stuff. Supposedly, there's a new documentary about this Bradshaw Ranch too. So, man, I don't think Skinwalker is even the half of it. I think people are just starting to discover how really weird this place is.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and wasn't like when Florida originally got explored by the Spanish, right? Weren't they thinking there was the Fountain of Youth there and some other, like there was always like a kind of aspect of like mystery and.
Well, St. Augustine, that's Florida's oldest city, and that is where they have the Fountain of Youth, where they said it was. You can actually go there and drink the water. Fun fact. And you should go there anyways. It's so haunted there. Like people, oh man, I've had some good experiences in St. Augustine.
Is that in the middle of the state relatively, or?
No, it's on the coast. So you know where Jacksonville is? It's probably about an hour and a half south of Jacksonville. And sorry, I'm getting over COVID. So give me 1 second. I got to clear my. Okay, so anyways, it's America's oldest city. So the Spaniards landed there, and that's where they encountered. There's actually a star fort there. So that's really cool. And you can actually go right up to it. And it was made out of coquina, which is the shell that's super absorbent. So when it was hit by cannonballs or muzzle fire, it really absorbed the impact. So all the holes are still there. It acted kind of like a foam. And unfortunately, you can see where they took some of the indigenous people and they just lined them up with like a firing squad. And the bullet holes are up so high, and the Spaniards were like so short. The bullet holes are crazy. Like I'm 5'9", and there were like bullet holes way above my head. So it's like, how tall were these people?
Yeah, no kidding, because they did have giant races reported in Florida. That's where some of the tallest Native Americans are. So, and they have languages very, very similar to Middle Eastern ones, and I think Celtic too. So there's so much going on when it comes to the indigenous people of Florida that it's just almost mind-boggling. And also, you have the giant, what are they called? The anchors, right? Outside of these country clubs, they think that these couldn't be anchors, but these things would have to be attached to ships that would be hundreds of feet long. Like they were huge. It's those ancient anchors really kind of reveal things, and they say that they made them there or whatever, made out of the same shell midden stuff, but there's no way that they built those just for a decoration outside of a golf course,
Totally.
Brooke, is there any strangeness out of the Keys?
Oh, yeah, they actually have. So the Keys is pretty haunted. They've got a corpse bride story down there, and also Robert the doll. So I don't know if you know about Robert, but he's kind of like Annabelle-esque, and that doll is supposedly like haunted as shit. And it was in Ed and Lorraine Warren's personal collection.
One of the people on the show thinks he's cursed from that doll, from going there.
Nick, send him the
doing
link.
Whatever you're not supposed to do. I forgot. He took a picture. Yeah, JJ.
Send him the link. Have him pop in here. Maybe you can tell us.
I already asked him. He said he could come on today. He said he could go on the chat though.
No more Robert. He's traumatized. That shit fucked him up.
Supposedly, like just even being in the room with it, the energy is bad.
Wow.
Yeah. Robert
and this is on exhibit in the Keys somewhere?
It is. I can't remember the exact name of the house, but it's in a historical home that's like a museum, so you can go visit it.
JJ, yeah, and then does he want us to tell the story or not?
Yeah, I honestly I just know that he went there and he took a picture without asking. What's the deal that you're supposed to do something and then he sent a letter in though?
He's
definitely permission or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and he thinks it gave him. He thinks it's given him. I think he's had like 12 or 13, maybe longer than that. He has a bad luck, he thinks, since then.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Hey, Chucky, can you burn Robert the doll for him? That would be a big favor.
So I can be cursed?
Yeah.
Hell no.
Maybe that ends it. That ends the curse.
12 plus years.
Dude. That sucks.
He needs to go back and apologize.
Yeah,
he tried.
Something, I don't know. So since we were talking about kind of like Bigfoot before, you want to get into your skunk ape experience you had recently, Brooke?
Oh, sure. With the eyes?
Yeah. Well, wait, wasn't there also a footprint too that you found?
Oh, yeah. So we can start there. So definitely got into skunk ape research. And for those who don't know, that's kind of like Florida's nickname for Bigfoot or Sasquatch. We call it the skunk ape. And it has like some different characteristics than what you would see in other parts of the United States or the world. Like they're more of a reddish color here. They're like a little bit shorter. And in my opinion, I don't think that they're as aggressive, but you never know. So anyways, we go out and we investigate in this area, and it is over 600,000 acres and it touches 5 counties, and it's called the Green Swamp. And we go out there because there's been multiple Bigfoot sightings in the area. And we're like, okay, we're going to primitive camp out here because if you want to investigate something, we take it seriously. So we have these e-bikes and we loaded them up. We drove into this primitive campsite and we decided we were going to camp out there for a few days. And we'd already been out there for a while. And this was like, I don't know, day 2 into the trip. We haven't seen anybody. It's in the middle of June. It's hot as shit. Nobody's out there but us. And we're coming back from checking out some things when I looked down on the ground, which primarily consists of like sand, dirt, and mud, kind of this like limestone that we ride on. And there was just enough mud where I look down and I see this footprint. So we stop and I'm like, oh my gosh, I start freaking out. I'm like, this is insane because I can clearly see the toes in there. So we stop what we're doing and we kind of examine it and we find this trackway. And so we start measuring it. And these tracks were 12.5 inches long by 4 inches wide or five, one of the two, I can't recall right now, and 2 inches deep. And you can see where the toes had dug in. So we're looking, and then the depth between the two, like the stride length, was 5 feet 6 inches. And so I tried to do that, and I was doing almost like a split. Like I couldn't even like do it with my own legs. Like this was crazy. So we're measuring everything and we look at the tracks and they kind of go off like into the woods. And so we got several really good prints and we photographed them and everything like that. And I was just really nervous about like posting them because I was like, I really want to be sure. So I sat on it and I showed it to some BFRO investigators who have been doing this for a really long time, and they know what to look for. Like they can tell the difference between what would be considered like a human foot and what would be considered a Bigfoot. So when I showed it to them, they were like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. Like you got some really good stuff here. And the one lady, she goes, did these just like go off into the woods? And I was like, yeah, actually they did, which I didn't tell her that. I just was showing her the pictures and they really did. They just kind of were going and then they veered off into this like really thick area of woods. So it was just incredible, like just being able to find that and seeing the toes where they had dug in. And we were out really far. I hadn't seen anybody out there. And it's not, I don't know if you guys have been to Florida, but this is not the type of place where you want to walk around barefoot. Um, there's a lot of things here that can kill you. And the woods are really thick. It's not like other places. I don't think people realize just how thick it is until you get here. So that was really cool when we found those prints.
Right. Well, the karst topography of Florida is like some of the most limestoney and porous in the world. Like they've got this huge aquifer underneath of it, and it's amazing for like a sandbar to have that. And that sort of geography really does play into paranormal events a lot. So you're talking hauntings, you're talking Bigfoot sightings, you're talking all sorts of cryptids and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, Florida is a very much a gold mine for paranormal activity.
Yeah, I feel like because of that, we're like sitting on a conductor basically.
Well, that limestone is a type of calcium that is a piezoelectric type of thing. So as long as there's pressure on it, it's creating a electrical charge.
Yep.
So now, was that also the pictures that you posted on Instagram?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, if people want to go see that, go check out her Instagram. She's got photos of that. I mean, I would say
Yeah.
too that doesn't look like an area you want to walk barefoot. I mean, I wouldn't.
Did you
No.
notice?
And oh, go ahead.
Did you notice any pressure points? Like, did he go up on the balls of his feet, or was he mostly a heel walker? Did you notice anything like that?
That's a good question. I don't know for sure. You could just kind of see like literally where the toes dug in. That might be a little too technical for me. I'm sure my one friend Marion would know the answer to that immediately. She's kind of she's like my brains of it, my scientist, I could definitely show you, but I got the pictures from the side where you can see the toes. So it wasn't like it was favoring anything or like it was running. It just seemed literally just like it was walking.
Perfect, right?
Yeah.
That's an interesting, because I mean, the strides that they use are always seem to be like gliding, like almost like they're hovering on top of the. So if it's a perfect print and he's, basically gliding, that's an incredible amount of movement for something that size,
Oh, absolutely. And I was trying to put in the dimensions to figure out how tall or how much something like that would weigh for it to go 2 inches down. And I was trying to get a guesstimate together of how much that something would have to weigh. And it was right after I put out my prints, and that was last year, I think in July. Around the same time, some trail cam footage came out from that same area that showed what looks like a skunk ape, in my opinion, with like a juvenile in tow. You can kind of see it. And so I was like, oh, that was all I needed. I was like, I feel like there's a family unit there.
I think very easily. There's so many swamps and really dense jungle areas in Florida. I mean, just the Everglades alone would be plenty of room for, all the people that live there and a, Bigfoot type creature.
And plenty of food sources. We have, like you said, the springs. They love the springs. We have everything from bears to hogs to otters, deer. I mean, there's plenty of things to eat, foxes, raccoons. And then having that water, the Withlacoochee goes right through there. And yeah, so it has everything it needs. But that's if it stays in this dimension.
Right. There could be
I was
portals
going to ask, Brooke, what do you think about the relationship between, say, the skinwalkers or other Native American traditions and Bigfoot? Do they have some relationships? Are they different?
Well, when we were talking about the portals, I have heard of those phenomena happening in tandem. Like when you have alleged portal activity, you do hear about an uptick in those skinwalker sightings as well as Bigfoot stuff. So those kind of go hand in hand. I think that they're two different things, but when you have the portals there, I think they can be happening at the same time. But with the indigenous, I mean, they looked at Bigfoot as like a offshoot tribe that wasn't some had some trade with, but some didn't. They looked at it as like cannibalistic giants and that they stayed away from. And I think that the skinwalkers is a little bit more I don't want to say malevolent, but I don't think it's as friendly as like a Bigfoot would be. I think that if you have a skinwalker encounter, it's probably going to leave you feeling more negative than you would a Bigfoot. I think Bigfoot can be scary, but I think I think like the skinwalker thing is way more of a bad omen and premonition.
Have you heard of the knot deer?
Yes. Exactly.
The chronic wasting and knot deer sort of combination is just like horrifying.
What is the knot deer? I haven't heard of that.
Oh gosh. Well, basically think of like an emaciated deer. Basically, that's like kind of like skeleton-y, dying, and then like bipedal.
Oh no.
That's like possessed.
Yeah, that would spook me out.
These things will run on their hind legs next to cars. And
yes.
Yeah. Their eyes don't exactly match up. Like they're sort of really asymmetrical and they've got, wounds sometimes. But I mean, like stories like this are sort of starting to pick up now. It didn't used to be a thing, but only in the past couple of years, people are reporting this knot deer.
Wow.
They call it that because it's not a deer. That's all they can say.
That's so spooky.
We wonder if people are like opening up these portals and these things are coming through. Like everything that CERN's doing, and then even some of like Aleister Crowley's workings with the portals that he was said to have opened. Who's to say that there's not somebody else out there who's carrying on what he started, and the uptick is happening because of something like that.
Think about all the emotional energy of politics in the last couple of years. That's totally related to the Schumann resonance. And you're talking about shifting the Schumann resonance around. You could have portals opening up.
It was, I don't exactly remember. Lux covered this part. I don't even remember what show it was in, but at one point, it might have been Skinwalker Ranch, actually, when we were talking about the weird shit. He did mention there's like, I think certain like schools or companies or whatever that actually have like these detectors like around the country to like actually kind of like read massive parts of people's like vibratory rates. So, I mean, they could technically be reading the country and seeing how they respond. So, I mean, I think politics falls into that. I think they realize what politics do and they played out for a while to get the energy they wanted.
I forget the name of the researcher, Cliff something or other. Some of
Cliff
it's Cliff High, right? He does the analysis of the word searches that are reflective of the human consciousness at the time. Some really interesting things have come up. Not all of it that he could use effectively to predict things, but that's what he's kind of going for.
I think it was pretty damn close, dude.
No doubt. No.
That last one was pretty on the nose because he got the Trump appearance on Rogan. And then what was it, like 30 days later, we had the drones that just started everywhere across the, Northeast and stuff like that. And he was talking about some sort of battle up in the sky. I mean, I don't know. That's pretty close to me. Like that seems
And
like
and I think he left that battle kind of open ended as far as like it could happen in the near future type of thing, and that would be a really dramatic paradigm he was pointing out. And yeah, those other two things prior that he got right, definitely kind of like, okay, when's it going to happen?
Right. I think that was a manifestation thing. Like, what if they just threw that out there to see if everybody could concentrate on it? The closest it got was drones.
Yo, I saw some footage on that drone stuff where like somebody was showing like footage of like them looking like they believed it was when they first started like appearing, and it was at night. So I guess those people you couldn't tell what those buildings were. They eventually went back after the fact, and like they were saying that they saw it. Either it was going back or coming, whatever it was, but like after a building or two from the footage, like covering the camera, you really couldn't see, like it disappeared, like you couldn't see anymore. So they're like, what was over there? And when they see like the area of the footage that they know they got, and then like kind of go like across the street or down a little bit more to around where it disappeared, there's a Boeing fucking place. Now they're actually thinking it probably flew out of there. And that's where it came from, was fucking Boeing. And I was even saying myself, the reason we're never going to get an answer about those drones is because it was ours. That's why we never got a fucking answer.
That's what Trump said. It was like an FAA test or whatever. But it's like, I don't buy that.
No, I think it was us, but we were doing something else.
Right.
Exactly. And I think that it's almost like admitting it without admitting it. But I think it was a test. I think it was a test to see how we would respond. Like you said, talk about like the energy harvesting. I think it absolutely was. It was like collecting data on how we would respond to it.
That's so weird. I think we cracked it. But, if you think about it, there have been UFO summoners, right? So you got that guy who, that famous guy on the video where it's like the prophet Yahweh or something. He goes out to the field with the reporter and he's like, I'm calling in the UFOs. And then the reporter looks up and there they are. You also got that Ryan Bledsoe kid, right? So the Bledsoes have all these things happen. What if they tried an experiment to get everybody to manifest these things, and the closest it got was drones? Because they did have these weird shape-shifting effects, and they would do things that defied. Because like there was 30 hours of battery on some of these things. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, and some of them looked more like plasma too.
Right.
Did you guys see those videos?
Yeah, certainly. And I think there was maybe multiple things going on at once, right? But like maybe there was something that they didn't understand, and maybe there was our or the United States interception kind of devices, and there's Tom Campbell, good input, and I guess multiple other reputable sources all across the country were pointing out that they've been dealing with the similar same thing, and in spurts, like you said, Headless, it'd be a whole season and then they'd kind of move on seemingly.
Right. That's just so weird. Like, what are they doing to us?
Yeah.
What about these UFOs though? Do you think anything about this disclosure thing is going to produce anything?
No. But I did.
Like the
I
last
did. Somebody told me I just got done the Bigfoot conference, and I can't remember who, but word on the street, and you heard it here first, that a Tennessee senator told this guy that pretty soon he is going to be called in, and there's going to be some stuff that comes out about Bigfoot, and that supposedly they're getting some sort of files. So I did hear that.
That's interesting. I think I know what that's about. There's a Bigfoot researcher who goes around the country FOIAing all of the records on Bigfoot from the local government. So he's looking for 911 calls and all the rest of this stuff. And they redacted a bunch of it. And it's like, why would you redact that stuff? These are 911 calls. There should be no reason to hide this stuff. But they're hiding the stuff about Bigfoot on 911 calls, which is strange.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
And actually, I think it was, I'm remembering it now. I think Dave Paulides, the senator, gets to take one person. I think he's taking Dave Paulides with him to.
Oh, that would make sense. He did go from missing 411 to into Bigfoot.
Yeah, this was somebody. Yeah, this was somebody who knows him who told me that. So if we see Dave Paulides in Congress in like 3 weeks, I just am saying.
Well, that's
I'll watch
very
that.
interesting. It's very interesting, Headless, that point about that they wouldn't omit anything if there wasn't anything to omit. Like what are you omitting? Something that was said on a 911 call about Bigfoot if there is no Bigfoot, and same with alien UFOs and so forth. Like, why is this all secret if there's no secret?
Right.
Well,
The main thing that they were censoring, I think, was the officer calls, because a lot of officers see Bigfoots. They're out at night all the time. So
And they're legit observers.
right.
and I wonder too. What was I going to say? I just lost it. I was going to say about Bigfoot. Keep going. I'll think of it. Darn.
What do you think about the ultra low frequency sound that they supposedly emit?
The infrasound?
Yeah.
Totally. I love that. I think that is definitely a thing that happens. And that's one of the things they talk about here in Florida too, is that some of us were discussing the theory of if the ones, because they're smaller here, if they have the resonance within their chest to produce the infrasound like they would in other places where they're taller, because to produce infrasound, you have to have a certain structure for it. And there's actually apps and different monitoring devices that people have picked up the infrasound coming off, and people get zapped. They get really sick sometimes when they come into contact with these creatures.
I want to teach Bigfoot how to play the brown note. I think that would be awesome. Just get him out there and have him do the brown note in a whole crowd of people and watch.
I remembered it. Okay, you guys are going to like this. Okay, it came back to me. So with Trump wanting to bring timber back to the United States, right? Think about this. Do you think we're going to see an uptick in Bigfoot sightings because of that? If we're going to be doing more logging and things like that here? Because I know that was one of the reasons that we were discussing about why cover it up would be the timber industry would be destroyed, because if they're living in the woods and that's their habitat, I wonder if we're going to see an uptick in the coming weeks and months from that.
Well, I think you'd be surprised, because a lot of what we see if today versus Civil War times, where they actually had wars between Bigfoot and these explorers and stuff, they clear cut basically the entire East Coast. There was no forest at all. They needed all that for the war. That's how they were heating themselves. So the entire East Coast is all second growth forest. So they had to be seeing something back then. I mean, finding out the reports back then would be really interesting, because I know I've seen pictures of clear cut from Virginia all the way up to New York. Not a single forest.
Yeah, they did that in Florida too.
So, I mean, there might be a big resurgence. Maybe that's what we're seeing. Who knows? Maybe
That'd
they
be
all just
wild.
hit the portals.
Imagine that's like the segue into like aliens. We're gonna start with something like I'll be totally honest with you. I think more people would probably buy into aliens than fucking Bigfoot. I feel like if you came out and said Bigfoot was real, I'd still be like, you're joking, right? Like, I'm just gonna be honest. Question Bigfoot. It's kind of. But it's possible.
I don't know. I don't know what to believe. Like, I like to know things and not know things, so I don't know, right? But it is interesting, all the correspondence of experiences with UAPs and Bigfoot, right? Like, that seems to be not uncommon, right?
No, there's definitely a connection there. Even Dave Paulides, his latest project was missing 411, the UFO connection, because that's where his research took him. And I've definitely spoke with people who have had the sightings and seen the blue orbs come down and move through the area in the campsite. And these are like BFRO investigators. And like, just for people who don't know, so like the BFRO is the Bigfoot Field Research Organization. And for the longest time, from what I understand, is that anything that had that paranormal or UFO report to it, that they wouldn't take the report. So you know how you're supposed to, if you see something, you're supposed to call them, they come out, they vet it. For a long time, they wouldn't take it. And I don't know that they
Says a lot.
are now. Yeah, absolutely. But the investigators themselves started having these experiences. And I know one in particular personally, and she showed me like they created it. And she said this giant blue orb came down in their campsite. And this was in Tennessee. And it went around the entire campsite to all of them. And they were able to like observe it. And it was probably about 30 feet up and it came down and then it shot up in the sky and it left. And they also had like Bigfoot activity on that same trip. And when she showed me the drawing of it, she said it just like, it was so cool. Like it literally like cast the whole area with this blue glow. So there's absolutely a connection there.
Blue light keeps coming up. I even mentioned this in one of the last episodes I was in. I was like, what the fuck's up with this blue light? Like occultists or just paranormal, like weird scenarios.
Every one of them. I think it goes back to this idea of the sky gods, you know? I mean, all this stuff has to do with the ancient versions of these phenomena, which would be the sky gods. They were interacting with this stuff back then, you know. I don't think there's really too much of a difference on a physical level. It just sort of changes from how we perceive them. You know, the Greeks didn't have any word for, you know, the ocean color, so they called it wine dark. There's lots of different perceptions that, you know, maybe don't translate, and they're just seeing the same things and describing it differently.
I believe it is the Taoists. Forgive me for not knowing exactly the origin of this idea, but there is a blue hour in the morning at sunrise and a red hour in the evening around sunset. And these have different kind of energies, and as far as like the blue light and so on, it just makes me think of this idea. I think it's Taoist. I'm not sure.
Well, I know there's a lot of activity that goes on between dawn and dusk. I think that's like the golden hour to see sort of apparitions and Bigfoot and all the rest of it.
In Tai Chi practice or Qigong, these are the hours that you can most benefit from practice in correspondence with the universal energies. You can gain a lot in these time periods, and in a magic sense too. I believe these are functioning hours, times.
I can't remember what time it used to be. I think it worked for me at one point because of like the job that I had at the time. But like I even knew other occultists. It was somewhere between like I can't remember exactly like 3 and 4:30. It was like a weird early time in the morning that they would do like specific ritual work. I always found that interesting. And I mean, I did eventually kind of go along with it. I just so long ago I can't remember the time, but it was early.
The Taoists, in relation to energy work, the Taoists say about the hour like that you just mentioned between 3 and 4 in the morning, that it's when energies are most quiet, and so you can really internalize and really be sensitive to things.
That's really interesting. The ancient people before all of this electric light would sleep from like 9 p.m. to midnight. And then they'd be up for like an hour and then they'd go back to bed. I never understood why, but that was the common practice back then.
I think they wrote about it too, like the second sleep, right? They'd even like they'd go have tea or do something and then go back to sleep.
Yo, Italy was kind of like that when I went over there. They broke up their day and like sleeping.
Yeah.
Like, and like it was like weird. It was just like, I mean, I guess like compared to New York, it wouldn't be much different, but I guess it was kind of like weird to me that it was like, wow, you can go back out like in Italy, like even in Rome, like 12 o'clock at night and like go to like a coffee shop that's going to be open till like 3 or 4 in the morning. It was just like fucking weird. I don't know. It was just like interesting. A lot of people. And it's like, don't you have something to do in the morning? But wait, something. No, the thing is that in some areas I noticed they actually take like hours breaks in between their
They
shifts.
got a siesta.
Yeah.
They
I was like,
and
I was like, I gotta come here. This is great.
They have a siesta like every day, like 6 to 9, and then they'll have dinner. And so you'll go out to dinner at like 6, 7, 8, 9. And no one is there. No one's around. They're like, you want what?
Yeah, and it starts hopping again, like around 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I was like, wow, this is wild. This is my place to be. Yeah.
I wonder if that actually impacts the way that they perceive time. You know?
Oh, I guarantee you it does. It has to. I came back off my timing.
I've tried purposefully experimenting with multi-phasic sleep patterns, and it really gets you in a energy sensitive zone, if you will. It really increases your sensitivity.
So what would like a normal day look like if you were fighting?
You'll get your main sleep will be 4 hours, and you get like maybe a 2-hour nap, or it might transform into more, but and the napping kind of has more of a value. So because you hit REM, right? And that's kind of where you get your sleep.
Oh no, you got froze.
Then you're getting your sleep in. So yeah, it'll be like a 4-hour or 5-hour your main rest period and a little nap is usually the way to do it.
Nice. Brooke, if you don't mind, I did want to actually kind of ask a little bit about I guess maybe ghost hunting experiences.
Yeah. I actually had, well, 2 things. So in St. Augustine, I went on an investigation there, and I'm telling you, St. Augustine is one of the most haunted places I've been to. And I think it's just because of the history that's there. I mean, so many people have died there. It's not even funny. So I was on this investigation, and we were in one of the most haunted cemeteries. It's like right in the center of town. And they have this headstone that they've cleaned it and they've washed it, but it still shows up with this face on it, and it looks like blood. And it's the creepiest thing. And I'll have to send you a picture of it, but they've like washed it, and you can clearly see like the eyes, the nose, the mouth, everything. And so I'm just taking pictures because they're like, yeah, this is like one of the best spots. And I was like, okay, so I'm taking pictures, and I went back and I was like looking through my footage, and I could clearly see this like orb come through the photo. And because I had on the live pictures too. So I was able to slow it down and take it frame by frame. And right when I'm trying to capture this like creepy headstone, I just get this incredible orb. And I went through all the footage, and it's not a bug or anything like that. It was this energy orb. And then we decided to go over by the actual fort and check things out over there. And on our EMF readers, it was like a soldier was like walking back and forth, because it was like, it would like light up. It was like, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. And it was like the soldier was still on guard right in front of the fort, like you would like see a soldier doing. So that was really interesting. And then we were going back through more footage, and we actually saw this like foot in this boot of like a colonial soldier back in the footage. So it was like an apparition literally came through. So that was really freaking cool. And we sent it to the tour lady, and she was like, that was some of the most incredible footage I've seen. And I'm pretty sure she still shows people.
Have you ever heard?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you said you
got
like.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Have you ever heard of the Betts Mystery Sphere?
Yes, I was actually thinking about doing an episode on it.
Man. So this kid finds like an orb that's like the TikTok video or the Tic Tac video, right? So he finds an orb exactly like that back in the 70s. And this thing, when he started playing music for it, it started rolling around on the ground. And so he took it in to have it tested, and they didn't know what it was. And they handed it back, and they're like, it must be a ball bearing. And it wasn't a ball bearing. And multiple people in his family witnessed this thing rolling around on its own. And so it's almost like one of those Tic Tacs, only the guy got his hands on it, and then one day it just disappeared.
Yep.
Is that the one? Didn't he like give it to the government and then he got it back and it was not working the same or not
Right.
have the same?
They probably replaced it.
Yeah, it's so spooky.
And we just
Fascinating.
recently did an investigation in this 1800 cemetery. So we went out for what was supposed to be like a Bigfoot hunt, but it kind of turned into, like I said, a lot of these people, they're really into the paranormal too. And so we go out and we're like posted up and we're going to hang out here. And the minute that we get on this like creepy, we'll call it River Road, we get there and we set up and there's this 1800 cemetery and there's this river and we're like, we're going to sit there because we'd had some activity in the area in previous nights. So we're like, okay, we're going to try it from this side of the river because it seems like everything is focused around this water area. So we get there and we let off. This guy has this like pop gun, those like old pop guns, and he like lets out a pop, and he does 3 of them. And then the next thing you know, we hear this like shriek come through, and it sounded like a woman. And we're out in the middle of the national forest when I'm telling you, like, there's nobody out here. It's like nobody's there. Like we're in the middle of like nowhere, and we just hear this like just woman howl come back, and then it gets the coyotes going. So we're like, oh crap, okay, we're already having activity. Like this is so cool. Like we just got here, and all of a sudden, I'm kind of sitting by the water. This other guy wanders off. Well, he comes back and he's like, whoa, I'm getting a ton of energy over here in the graveyard. And I'm like, really? Okay, I'm gonna come. Show me what's going on. So we walk in there, and this guy has these like balls, and he decides to put them on the headstones because he's like, maybe we can see if they want to interact with us. So I was like, okay. So we put the balls out, and we're like, if anybody's here and you want to interact with us, like, please, like, give us a sign. Nothing's happening. And this one guy has his equipment going, and we're starting to get words come through, and they're both getting this awful feeling. He's like, it feels like someone has a hose, and he's just getting like hosed with like energy. And he's like, I feel it really bad from this like one corner. And nothing was responding to them. So when I would ask the questions, we would get responses back. They weren't listening to them. So I was like, is it too confusing for these balls? Because I'm like, if this is a really old ghost, like they don't know how to work it. Maybe it's like too advanced. So I said, would you like me to try candles? Like I have some candles. I'll go ahead and light them. And it was like, no, not all of us would like that. So we're like, okay, we won't do that. And we continue asking it questions, and we're getting things like mistress, purgatory, and we're kind of piecing together this story. And like, we kind of think we were communicating with the grandfather that was there, and that he was just really regretful and remorseful for some sort of situation. And we got responses back saying like, I'm stuck. And then one of the other guys who is sitting by the river, we're like, you got to come and check this out because we're getting responses. And like the one guy went to go walk away, and it was literally like, watch your step. And the craziest thing is some of the graves were collapsed. Like you can see it where they're sunken in, and it's like, watch your step. And then it was like tunnel. So we're getting these different responses that are coming through. So this other gentleman came over who has some Native American background, and he went to bend down to like look at one of the headstones. And then this response came through that was like, please sit with me. And we were like, what the heck? Because it was like right when he crouched down to look at one of the headstones that was there, because some of them were so worn off, they're unmarked. Like we couldn't see the names. Like some of them we can, but a lot of them were collapsed and worn off, and they were just getting hit with this like awful energy. And then it was like progressing into the night, and we're communicating and we're getting really clear responses from this. And then all of a sudden I just started getting this like really sad and just like heavy feeling. And they were like, he's the one guy was like, I can't take this anymore, because like he was just getting like hit with all of this energy. And we decided like we were gonna just call it, because he couldn't take it. Like he literally felt like, he's like, I feel like somebody has like pressure on my shoulders, like they're like pushing me down. And it was just, that was pretty crazy. That was a pretty crazy night.
Is that like one of your more like weirder experience or wilder experiences?
It was. I mean, we were really having dialogue. I recorded the whole thing, so I literally have it on my phone. I need to go back and maybe shorten up the audio and figure out a way to post it, because you can hear we're having this conversation like with this spirit, and we were getting like comprehensive responses. Like when he went to go drop down to look at the gravestone, it's like, come sit with me. And it was like, what the heck? Like, and the other guy, when he went to go walk away and, you know, getting the watch out, and when I asked about like the candles and just different things, like we were getting clear responses, and, you know, the energy that they were getting hit with, along with like the crazy howls that we had heard when we arrived. And they said like when we were in the graveyard that they could like hear something moving, but we didn't hear any of that. Like in the graveyard, we didn't hear it. And like the temperature, there was definitely a shift in the air. It was like super cold. And I know that's like super stereotypical, but it's true. Like the air was colder and almost thinner inside the graveyard. And that just happened in February.
That's interesting. It'd probably be hard to prove at night. Not at night, outside. But something I've
Right.
even thought before, and you've mentioned, you've even talked about portals before, and I do think this may sound like a little weird or hard to understand, but like I think if somebody's like messing with magic or having a magical experience within themselves, they're almost kind of creating that within them, within their own self, in a sense. And I do think you know, what I've mentioned before, that I do think that I'll just put it this way: if you were ghost hunting and you were able to put candles up within the house, and let's say you just put the cameras up and like had your spot and you just watched everything, and if you started like getting like weird stuff going on, I would wonder if the candle in that room actually burned down more. Because I do think that when it comes down to, and I've wondered this with the orbs too, and especially where they're blue, is I do think, you know, if this whole portal thing is just like basically magnetism and electricity. And I'm wondering if that's why the candle burns faster, is because there is some sort of magnetism that's kind of pulling sense or feeding off of it.
Yeah.
Yes. I have thought about like using, if I ever was to investigate a place that would allow me to do that, I probably would actually set up a candle in each room if there was stuff going on, to see if the candle burnt down more in that room.
Have you ever heard of the stone tape theory? They basically say that the energy inside of these houses is trapped in the walls, and then stimulus brings out these apparitions. So
Oh,
if
I've
you're
heard of
taking all of the light out and you're only using candlelight, you'll probably get a much better reaction from the energies in the house. As sort of like a triggering effect.
That's cool.
Interesting.
That's why I wish I could have used the candles. I was like, do you want me to use, because I carry these emergency candles in my bag. And I was like, I can light one. And it was like, no, not all of us would like that. So I was like, ooh, okay. I'm not trying to piss off the graveyard, so I'll be respectful. But I'll tell you, I know how you were talking about wanting to come for an investigation. There's this place I'm dying to check out, and it's in Mount Dora, and it's right up your alley. It's actually a Masonic lodge that you can go, and it's in this old like Victorian home. It's haunted as shit. And you can actually go and do like ghost investigations there.
Well, I want to go down there just to avenge my boy AJ. I'm going to take that Robert the Doll out. Mark my words.
Oh my God, Robert the Doll. Yeah, how far? Where did you say that is again in Florida?
Mount Dora.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah,
that is interesting. That would be cool to. Trying to think. I think Nate from Reality Czars, I think, did an investigation at a Freemason lodge, but I don't think it was in Florida. I can't remember.
Yeah,
That's
I want to do
interesting.
that so bad.
Yeah, that's cool. And they'll let you bring in cameras and film it and everything.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, that is dope. That is pretty
Yep.
cool. Nice.
And it's still like a functioning lodge too.
That
Hey,
is
if you
pretty
go,
cool.
you should try the trick with putting the microphone in front of the speaker and then trying to record the sound you get from the ambient noises in the room, because you'll actually be able to turn that into some sort of a cymatic picture. So you can actually get a different view, more of like a geometric view of the kind of energy you're dealing with.
That's
Nice.
super cool.
A highly intuitive friend and teacher of mine once told me, and for me, this has turned out to be my feeling anyway of the truth. He told me that whenever you get a message in kind of a psychic manner, or in the case of you're communicating with someone in another dimension, so to speak, as you described your story, it is always less than 10 words. And if it's more than 10 words, you're probably making it up, he said. And that's been my experience whenever I've had that feeling of like, where did that idea come from? It's always been so succinct that you almost interpret it. It might be one or two words.
Right, like a confirmation bias. And I saw the comment about Hellbent Holler. I'm friends with those guys. They're the best.
Nice.
They hunt Dogman
Yeah.
in the LBL. Hmm.
Whoa, that's up north, isn't it?
Kentucky. Land
Yeah,
Between the Lakes. Do you guys know about that?
that has so many Dogman sightings and just crazy
Well,
stuff there.
yeah, basically, I think the government came in and they did eminent domain. I want to say, was it in the 1940s or something like that? And all these people who had settled there, they had generations of family. They flooded this piece of land, and basically they were like, "You got to get out." And they flooded the land, and now it belongs to the government. And there's just so much strange activity that comes out of there, especially with Dogman. And there's a lot of old structures that are still there, like the houses from people and everything like that, all the homesteads.
Yeah, sometimes you can dive down and actually see the old houses as they're flooded out on the bottom. But the whole land between the lakes things, it's like, wasn't there a family that was devoured by a dog man up there?
I think so. Yeah. And there's been like reports of like campers and stuff and missing people.
Right? They said it was a pack of dogs that mauled this family, but none of the wounds matched up to a pack of dogs. It's probably a dog man, which is crazy. I mean, there's a whole family that they killed. That's pretty dangerous, you know?
That reminds me of the Devoltive Pass incident where all those hikers were killed. And what was really strange about that is that a few of them had injuries that were so severe that they were like car crash victims, like internally, like their internal organs were just demolished. And yeah,
Wow.
there's theories that that was like some either, okay, so you talked about Russia and like the glowing stuff. So there's theories that either it was a Russian experiment that the Soviets were doing at the time, or that it was some kind of like Bigfoot or Yeti that actually did this to them. Or there's the paranormal aspect, because the last thing they captured on their camera were these orbs that some say was like a secret Soviet missile test, because the bodies had radiation on them when they were discovered.
That Dyatlov Pass incident just brings up so many different ideas about like resonant frequencies and maybe, all these different
That too.
ELF type things too. But they call it the Mountain of Death, so it wasn't the very first time that this was happening.
That's true. You can't leave that part out.
And I don't know if it was the same. I don't know if it happened in that incident, but I believe their lips were removed and some things were removed from them that made it very spooky. right? Like almost like a harvest. They're harvesting, and it's not the only time that happened. It did happen there.
Yes. Yep. Some of the lips were removed. The eyes is like really strange. The eyes were removed, but it wasn't like an animal scavenging. It was like, I think they said that the wounds occurred while they were alive, not post-mortem.
I think that the website is Aliens Are Bad, and it does have a whole theme on this being related to aliens, and kind of the same idea of where what is it that with the cows, that this used to happen with cows, that their pancreas would be gone, and it was like not an animal, right? But this website goes in on that theme.
Right. Well, a lot of that cattle mutilation still happens. So, I mean, you remember how back in the 90s, they used to talk about black helicopters that didn't make any noise. And then they kill Osama bin Laden with black helicopters that don't make any noise. And they didn't even bother to apologize to anybody about calling them crazy when they were seeing this stuff in their backyards.
Yeah, that is hilarious. And I mean, I still see reports, not necessarily my own personal friends, but in Sedona, they're really big. In Napa, California, in the Bay Area, they're I don't know about still, but many black helicopters with no or little noise. It's just like common sightings. Good point, Headless.
Didn't Elvis have a black helicopter fly over Graceland on the day that he died?
Probably.
I don't know.
You guys haven't heard about that?
Uh-uh.
No, that would have been a good question to ask when I had my gallons.
Yeah, there were reports of a black helicopter that was flying over Graceland in the hours before the news came out about Elvis's death.
That is spooky. Like straight, like real spook. Like it makes me think of like the ability that they were developing to cause physical problems.
Well, Elvis, he was a hermeticist who also did faith healing, which is very.
There was a lot.
Yeah.
There was so much stuff about him. I did not know how blatant he was into that stuff.
He was a straight up magician, which is so funny because it's like nobody even talks about that in the mainstream. Like they're obsessed with Crowley, and it's like, what about this guy?
Not at all. But it's just like, that blew me away when I realized how much he was really into that stuff. I was like, you don't hear a word about this. But he wasn't hiding it at his shows. He was pretty obvious.
That's how you know the spell worked.
He was fascinating in his eclectic occult pursuits, right? He had so many.
Right. But wasn't he friends with Manly P. Hall? I thought he went out there. He had a bunch of books by them in his bags.
Apparently, according to Miguel, he was a huge fan of Manly P. Hall. And because Elvis couldn't go anywhere, he sent Priscilla to his presentations. And she would take notes and bring him notes on what Manly P. Hall was saying. I found that to be mind-blowing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I did wonder about that because I was like, maybe she did get into it kind of just from doing that. I think he had said that she didn't seem to really be into it, but I don't know, maybe she wasn't. She was like, I was just taking notes for him. I don't know.
Right? Try to minimize her involvement.
Yeah. I don't know.
It would seem to me she had resentment that she wasn't his focus of attention, that maybe she didn't just have disdain for the subject matter itself, but more that he was not,
spending time with other stuff. That's very well put. Yeah, that could be.
I wonder if you could ever do ghost hunts at Graceland.
That'd be cool.
That would be badass, dude.
You'd have to have the right paper. If you had the right paper and rented it out.
Get a
Mhm.
bunch of Manly P. Hall books and start reading to Elvis. See if he pops in.
Oh gosh.
Can you imagine if you captured that?
Be awesome.
Oh my god.
You just hear him singing.
Damn, dude.
You know, it
That would
might
be
be some good places to pick up some paranormal activity. Pig farms.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Get so many people fed to them, probably.
Yeah, that one serial killer up in Canada, he was a bad dude. You guys know about him?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of when I mentioned it. The Pittman or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, he was a serial killer who had his own pig farm, and he wound up murdering
Nice.
a ton of the indigenous Canadian women, and the police just didn't take it seriously, I guess, at the time, and he got away with it for a while. I want to say, what was it, like 28 or something like that,
That
people?
was a lot.
They were
yeah.
all
Or
in on
that's
it.
probably what they know.
Yeah, right.
They were all in on it. All the police were. They did
Probably.
not care. They thought it wasn't going anywhere. This guy was like the Canadian Epstein,
Sweetheart deal.
right?
Yeah.
But you know, there's a
Oh.
Belgian
Go ahead.
Epstein too, and a French Epstein, and all these Epsteins all over the place. Same black market or blackmailing operation. You know, something.
Well, I
must
think
be
if
said.
I think JJ was talking about that not too long ago and mentioning all the people like own all the islands around there and the stuff they're into. And it's like, how can we only hear about Epstein? What's up with all these other people around in this area? They all seem
Right.
to be ridiculously rich and like into weird shit.
They got you to focus on the
They all know
client,
each other.
right? They got you to focus on the client list instead of the whole operation.
Yeah.
I want to say, didn't news just break here out of Florida that they just uncovered like an egg farm or something like that?
Oh yeah. He had a bunch of human embryos that he was saving.
Well, yeah, and that these women who thought that they were going to be surrogates wound up being taken to this like basically this human trafficking egg farm where they were just consistently having babies that aren't registered, don't have social security numbers, anything like that, and it goes into the, it's
That's why
sick.
there's no raid on Zorro Ranch. That's what they were
Yeah.
doing out there. I mean, that was his
Mhm.
property. They didn't even go there. They're like, what? Go there? Why would we do that? Give me a break. It's so obvious.
And it, not necessarily focused on that demonic behavior, but every country has a mafia organization that is a separate but a leg of its operations, right? And sometimes multiple different mafias, probably like the United States, I'm sure does. But the Russian mafia, notorious for rolling in before the actual institution, right? And again, that's similar, but not necessarily with the Epstein stuff, but it's all mafia like.
Well, you had that case in Belgium with that guy who he was blackmailing the government with all the kiddie porn there, and they just kept letting him out. And he would they would find bodies in his basement, and they just kept letting him out until the entire country basically had to protest and say this guy needs to go to jail. And so that's the only reason he's actually still in jail today. But it's like, give me a break. I mean, how is that happening all over the place? And then you got in England, what was that guy's name? That, the one who was,
the entertainer
Right.
that was BBC. I
Oh.
talk about spooky characters.
Friends with Prince Philip or Andrew.
Totally
Jimmy
down
Charles.
with everybody.
Prince Charles. He was down with the king.
Jimmy Savile.
So Jimmy
That's-
Savile.
Mhm.
That's a sick MFer, but that's the same pattern as all the rest of these guys.
And that one is notorious for the idea that everyone knew. It was an open secret. It was unmentioned. You couldn't tell on him, but everyone knew that he was up to like really devious things.
And Kevin Spacey was friends with them. And when you were talking about the mafia that exists, I was thinking about House of Cards. And even though it's fictional, it really does a good job of capturing kind of that mafia-esque vibe that happens in Washington and around the world. And it's so interesting that like that character that he played on the show, and then it comes out later on in real life that he's, actually like a pedophile and all those. Are we allowed to say that on YouTube? I'm sorry.
PD
But
He's
whatever.
PDF.
Yeah, he's a PDF. Sorry. And anyway, so that's just interesting, that connection there with Kevin Spacey too, to the Royals as well.
Well, the witnesses to Kevin Spacey's thing, they all ended up dying, and he came out with that video that said "kill him with kindness." I mean, come on,
yeah,
how much more
yeah,
obvious can it be?
Oh, that's right.
I have a few weird YouTube videos. That guy, he's a creepy.
Yeah.
That's spooky. It reminds me of when one of the wealthiest men on the planet, BG, said of Epstein, "I don't know, he's dead." Right? Like something like, what do you think of this happening? Or what do you think of him now that this has all happened? I don't know. He's dead. Like really gangster sounding.
Bill Gates, and he said that that's why you got to be careful. He said he's dead. I guess I got to be careful. Like, what does that even mean?
Total gangster, right? Like you don't just say things like that unless that's just really implying things.
And that's the guy who's supposed to give us the injectable crucifix.
Yeah. And I mean, he just said recently that, what is it, by the year 2030, well, not 30, but something, that all the doctors are going to be AI and that we won't have a need for any human doctors anymore.
I don't think I'm ever going back to the hospital, ever.
Yo, that is creepy. You know how doctors feel hearing that? Ones that just started. Imagine that. What do you got? Like, I mean, that's creepy shit.
They get the complete memory wipe.
Yeah, I saw this thing that said it said something like, stay healthy because your future doctors are using ChatGPT to get through college right now.
Right. It's not getting any better.
Yo, you know how easy it is now to program? There's people that I know that, I don't know, but I've been told people, you could use ChatGPT to run fucking program JavaScript. You just got to know how to ask it, right? And it will do it correctly.
Right.
It's fucking insane.
You still got to know how to check it because the machine keeps hallucinating.
Oh, yeah.
Why is the machine hallucinating? Has anybody come up with a good explanation yet?
Never even heard of that.
What do you mean,
Yeah,
that
that's
it
what they
goes
call
off
it.
on tangents, or what do you mean, Headless?
Right. It'll go off on tangents. It'll imagine things are happening. And then, it's like you'll get these responses back that it's like, what's going on here?
I've noticed too.
Like you guys are friends too. I've noticed. Well, I've heard. I guess to get it to talk like that to me, but I have heard this thing will start like kind of like your boys. So weird.
And I've asked it the same question and I'm getting different answers. And so the truth was kind of like somewhere in the middle, or maybe sometimes it's one is just a throwaway, but it's really just deciphering and repeating stuff that's online, right? So it can come up with different answers easy, I guess.
If it doesn't know something, it'll fill in the blanks with something else that's completely unrelated. That's a hallucination. It's imagining that is what the answer is.
Oh, it's kind of like Dory too. Its memory is only good for so long, and then you have to remind it what you're talking about.
Right.
I fucked around with the free Grok a few times on Twitter, and like that, I was like, I don't know, I didn't like that it kind of did it, but like it almost started inferring, like it literally was telling you that it was assuming from this and that, and it's like, well, see, now you put your 2 cents in, and it's like not factual anymore. Unless I'm reading it and actually caught, like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't like that.
Does the AI collect all your metadata too?
Fuck knows.
I'm sure.
That's creepy.
I mean, I think you can install it and program it in different ways, right?
Well, if you go to the code, yeah, but who does that?
Well, no, I'm ignorant of that.
I got to get into.
I just heard someone, maybe it wasn't ChatGPT, but someone using AI first as like a little advice kind of thing with their job and their work and even their relationships. And it got to be the point where it's like keeping track of its calendar and remembering that it's gonna meet Stephanie that day, and she likes certain things, and if he wants to get the, account,
It's interesting.
So there's all kinds of uses for it. I have not necessarily gotten into it like that.
Is the AI demon possessed? Do we know that?
Well, you know what's spooky is AI designed that stuff that BG sold us all, right? That was a woman's idea pertinent to aspects of the Corona makeup. It was her idea for a certain direction, but the AI took it and came up with multiple arrangements of possibilities, and that's what they went with. So,
well, that's exactly kind of, believe it or not, I'm not trying to rain on the parade. I'm not a hater. I could care less. I do think it's kind of cool. The whole thing with those dire wolves. I mean, the DNA was 10,000 years old, so they used the CRISPR to take whatever is assumed, whatever it could read that was left over from old as fuck DNA, which isn't going to be much left, and it's going to assume what the rest of it should be and created that. It's probably not actually 100% accurate, but I guess as close as we can get to it.
Well, hear me out here. So, you know how we were talking earlier about portals and stuff and Skinwalker Ranch? So, the property here in Florida, the woman told me that she has seen dire wolf on her property. So, if she says that the DOD have been out there, what's the chances that they have gotten a dire wolf that's come through one of these portals, whether it be on Skinwalker Ranch, this lady's property, or I'm sure some other blacklisted site we'll never know about somewhere else, and they've taken the DNA from it, and that's how they've been able to actually create these things. Like when I saw direwolf, I was like, it would have to be the direwolf just because it pops up with these portal situations. Like I don't know what the connection is there, but it's interesting.
That's the big announcement.
Reminds me very
Dude,
moon-like,
that's it.
moon tarot card like too.
Right.
Interesting. Was there anything else you guys wanted to ask or talk about before we wrap it up? That might be good for now. All right. Yeah.
I once saw the most hilarious documentary, totally not occult, but it was called Vernon, Florida. Do you know of Vernon, Florida, the movie or the place? Yeah, totally unrelated. You do know of it.
I've neither the place or the movie. I've heard of Vernon, Florida for sure.
It's a hilarious. I don't know where to see it anymore. I mean, it's probably out there on YouTube, but it's just a hilarious documentary, almost mockumentary of this real town and the townsfolk. It's just hilarious. Forgive me. It's totally unrelated. Forgive me.
Why, you live close to Vernon?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, nice.
So I looked up that incident with the orb, and it's on St. George's Island. Have you ever been out there?
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh, no kidding. Wait, which orb what are we talking about?
That's the one that was rolling around on the floor by itself.
Oh, are you serious? Okay,
Yeah.
so I will say that's right by Tate's Hell. And I know that we're wrapping up, but Tate's Hell is this place where this guy supposedly his name's Tate, and he went missing for like 7 days and 7 nights, and he came back and his hair was like completely white and he had all these snake bites all over him, and they asked him where he went and he said he went to hell. And this is the same area. Yeah, this is the same area with the skinwalker activity, Bigfoot activity. I have done some investigations up there. I totally know St. George's Island. Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
That's the investigation right there, Nick.
Wow.
St. George's Island.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's right near where that freaky cemetery was. So, wow, no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Off the coast, that's where the Tic Tac was. So
yeah,
it's like
and that's right by
right.
Oh.
Eglin. Is it Eglin Air Force Base that's up there?
I'm not sure, but I know that it was close enough.
Yeah, because when we were camping, we had the fighter jets that were going overhead, like the F-35s and stuff. They were doing drills. That was super crazy.
Interesting.
All right.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brooke, for joining us. That was awesome. We'll definitely have to get you back on again to talk some more weird stuff. Or,
Yeah,
next
thank
time
you
I
for
get
having
somebody on
me.
the paranormal, I'll have you join us too. Let everybody know where they can find all your amazing work.
Oh, thank you. Just look up Dark Florida on any of your podcast sites, and then you can follow me on Instagram at Dark Florida Podcast. And I do have a Facebook page if you want to come hang. It's Dark Florida. So Dark Florida anywhere or Brooke Moreland, either one. And thank you
Awesome.
for having me on. I really enjoyed our discussion. It's always fun when I get to talk about like Bigfoot, but other things too, because I'm passionate about more than just the big guy.
Awesome. Nice. No, I thought that was actually very fun. Definitely do it again. Yeah, I do have. I think now I have your podcast link in the bottom.
Oh,
I can
great.
do the links and add that. I wasn't sure if you wanted like your Instagram and everything, but I will add that after the fact. And I do think this will be like dropping probably this weekend, so I'll add that to the podcast as well. Again, thank you very much, Brooke. And Headless, thank you for your mailbag. Even though one was an audio message we didn't get, which hopefully we will get the typed out version next week. Let everybody know what's up with you, my man, and plug your mailbag, please.
Yeah, so my email is headlessgiantpodcast@gmail.com. You can email me with any sort of paranormal slash occult slash weird dreams, any kind of weird story you have, I'll take it. So that is headlessgiantpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you.
Awesome. And Ethan Indigo, please let everybody
Peace.
know.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Brooke. Nick, thank you for putting this together. Headless, always love hearing your ideas. And I'm on all the usual websites, pretty easy to find, and I'll be writing more and more, hopefully, if I can come up with more ideas.
Oh yeah, he's got some ideas for the show that we're going to be putting together that he's going to present. One, he's also got a bunch of books, so that's always a plus.
Yeah.
So we could start covering his books actually. And yeah, what was the other one that you had? The cannabis idea. I did find that interesting. Maybe we'll tease that a little bit.
The book title is Marijuana, Cannabis, and the Prohibition of the Divine Feminine. And if you look at, just for instance, one thing I like to start at is the oldest kind of assumptions that we have about things might be kind of the false. And we think that they're old, but they're actually really new. For instance, what is the oldest profession, right? And we all know that slogan, that idea, but it's not true, right? Well, they like to say the oldest profession is a prostitute, but yeah, the oldest profession, really, when we don't flip it or pervert it with the new age BS, is the nurse. Whether with the monetary system or even before it would be the nurse. So yeah, it starts with that, and I go on from there.
Awesome. Yeah, I look forward to that. And, did you plug your stuff?
Yes.
Already?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, totally forgot.
No. Thank you, Jack.
Of course. Yes. So again, thank you, Headless. Thank you, Ethan. And again, thank you, Brooke. Again, we'll definitely have to get you on, talk some more stuff. And that is the end of another Occult Rejects / Headless mailbag number 8. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.